Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy Starship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek The Next Generation podcast on the BQN. I am Diplomatic Standard Bearer Kevin Scarf. With me today are Chief Lumberjack Rhea Papagiorgio and our special guest, Chief Technology Master Kyle Wagner. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Thanks for jumping in, Kyle. It's good to talk to you, and welcome to Galaxy Class.
It's a pleasure to be here. Of course, for the listeners who might not know, this is all part of the fun after the announcement last week of the kind of partnership between you wonderful people at the BQN and, of course, the Fandom Podcast Network, as you guys now are carrying Union Federation on your network.
Yeah,
I don't know how Amy's done a phenomenal job on that show, and she's just assimilating us all in. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I start getting a green glow, should I be worried?
No, you get used to it. It kind of helps, like in the middle of the night when you need to go to the bathroom or whatever. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, I might freak my cats out, but that, you know.
Yeah, I think we have decided that the N in BQN does stand for Nelson.
It makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Truthfully. So,
Rhea, why are you the Chief Lumberjack this week? Like usually the changing of titles is Joe's purview.
I guess since Joe's not here, I'm picking up his slack a little bit. But we had a storm came through Thursday night, and I'm still living in Nebraska. And actually, this was kind of funny because I was watching the second episode of Strange New Worlds, and I had been working in the garden. It had been beautiful, sunny, clear for days, just beautiful weather. And at any rate, watching Strange New Worlds, and the moment in the episode where it starts to rain on that planet, it started to rain here at my house outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's the will of Maharit. Ah. Well, whatever. So I had to go to bed, wake up in the morning. And when I walked outside at one point, my backyard, like a good chunk of this one tree, a huge limb, it doesn't even quite cover it. It was a huge, about a third of this tree was lying in my backyard. Stopped just short of the garden. Thankfully, it didn't kill my garden. But at some point during the night while it was storming, and I was sleeping in the bedroom right, outside or right inside of that tree with the windows open, I never heard this tree split in thirds and fall into my backyard. So that was yesterday morning that I discovered that. And so I got a start on it last night, busting out the loppers and the chainsaw. And then when we're done recording, I'll be outside with the chainsaw. So God willing, the next time that we record, I will have all of my digits still intact. But oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I had so much fun taking that tree apart as much as I did last night. It just felt great, whatever. Took a shower, go to bed, woke up this morning, and it was like, OMG, who hit me with a hammer? Every part of my body from head to toe. So we're a lot of work. Sore now, but
as long as we don't have to call you Leatherface, I'm good with this.
I am also good with that.
Is it good wood? Are you keeping the wood?
No.
Oh.
Unless someone wants the wood, unless someone considers it good wood.
What kind of tree was it?
Some crappy hackberry tree. But,
okay. It's not like high quality oak that somebody could make a table out of.
If it's oak, I'd be cutting it with a much different strategy.
Is there going to be a big bonfire in your backyard this weekend?
Well, then the funny thing too is that the way I have to separate the tree out is I can only put the branches, the twigs, and anything with the width of a finger or smaller can go in yard waste, and the rest just has to go in the trash.
Oh.
So, and everything has to be cut up so small. So I'm old chainsaw's getting a workout.
Yeah. Well, I have missed the last couple of episodes because I've been in a play. Which sadly we had to cancel this week's performances of because half the cast caught COVID. Singing in close contact is a super spreader event.
Yeah, not a good combination. I'm thinking
We were so careful wearing masks backstage, wearing masks all through rehearsals. But once you're on stage and performing in front of an audience, you can't really wear them. And once one of us caught it, half the cast caught it. So we've had to, including me, I am recovering as we speak. I've missed the last 2 days of work because of it, and it's not been fun. We're hoping that we can do the last weekend of the show coming up this weekend, next weekend. But even that's up in the air right now. So fingers are crossed. It was a great show. We were having a lot of fun doing it, but it's hard to do a musical when half your cast is sick.
Yeah. So how are you feeling now? You sound good.
Well, I started with a sore throat and sort of a hack and cough, so your typical body aches and lack of sleep. I'm down to just a stuffy nose and general fatigue. I'm feeling a lot better than I did 2 days ago. So, knock wood, the vaccines have done their job, and I should be back at work. Maybe not Monday, but Tuesday. So I have to do rapid tests before I go back to work to see if it's gone out of my system. So
yeah. And Kyle, you look healthy, I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, just for me, it's basically just starting to get back into a normal life. I work when I'm not cruising around on starships. I work for an accounting firm, so we just got out of tax season, and that was just not fun. In fact, Rhea, the last time I had a day off before 2 weeks ago was when I saw you right before the Star Trek cruise.
Oh my gosh!
That was like 2 months of intensity. So it always takes me a few weeks to kind of get back into the swing of things. And of course, I have a podcast network that I have to take care of too. Sometimes I think it takes more care than a child. So
yeah. Wow.
But no, it's good. Like I said, I'm very excited about being able to be on here with you guys and the partnership we formed with you guys at BQN and what we're going to do. And I'm ready to jump back into getting into podcasting and having a normal life again, not something where I'm living at the office 24/7.
That sounds good.
Hear, hear.
That sounds very good. Well, why don't we jump back into this podcast and get on with what we're supposed to be doing? And we'll start by checking the communications array to see if we have any comments from our listeners.
Logs accessed.
From the BQN Collective on Facebook, we had quite a few comments regarding Galaxy Class Episode 87, our row profile. Vera Bible writes, Amy Nelson, no, don't pit women against each other because they both had the same love interest. LOL. They both are both great in different ways. Vera, yes, thank you very much, because that's like a trope or a stereotype or something, whatever it's called, that needs to die. The whole thing that women need to compete over men. No. Women need to build each other up and cooperate and be each other's biggest fans. And quite frankly, men aren't worth fighting for. But Mark Rodriguez, possibly a man, sorry, no offense, also adds, well, I love Ro Laren and have always had a crush on Michelle Forbes, but that doesn't make me any less Team Deanna. Deanna is Will's Imzadi and always will be. I will not put Deanna and Laren at odds. They're both amazing women. I'm not so sure that Ro Laren considers Will a love interest. She's certainly attracted to him, but how deep those feelings go is another matter. Yeah, I think that was just that fine line between love and hate. That subconscious desire that manifested when they lost their memories. Kirsty Keene adds, both for different reasons, different models of female strength. Yes, love it.
That is true. Now, Rashid Uzaman said, I love both and I will not choose. Greg Molumby said, I'm not a fan of Deanna Troi, so I will always be Team Ro. I love the Ro character and wonder what could have been had she actually appeared on DS9. The book says she survived the Dominion attack, but I think it would have been cool to see her in a guest appearance on DS9 on occasion. Heck, maybe she should have been part of Riker's crew on the Defiant in that third season episode of the same name. It was also fun to see Amy kind of change her mind on Ro as the discussion went on.
Ooh, that would have been cool to see her. Yeah.
Yeah. In the book, she becomes captain of DS9 eventually by the end of the book series.
Really?
Yeah. Because Kira takes over from Cisco and then becomes a Vedic. And when she leaves Starfleet, because Kira joined Starfleet at that point in the books, this is all stuff that's in the books. Ro has come in and she's earned her way back, and she ends up commanding DS9 by the end of the book run.
Interesting.
Yeah. Paul Wright Jr. says, LOL, why does this have to be a binary choice? Great show, ladies, and I agree. Rhea Papagiorgio is a lot like Ro in a good way.
Well, thank you, Paul. And yeah, the sleeves will just always be too short.
Is Ro from the Greek part of Bayshore?
I'm sure they have a parallel
Husparat's got to
Greek
be a
culture
lot
here.
like Husparat's got to be a lot like I don't know,
Something.
some Greek food.
Yeah, the Greeks invented Husparat.
Yeah, of course they
There you
did.
go.
Over to you, Kyle.
Oh, sorry. I still getting my bearings here. So
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so let's see here. Bear with me. From, if I am reading correctly, from Jim Stoffel, Team Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Helen, Team Deanna, not just because of the Riker thing. I think calling it a love affair is doing a disservice to love affairs. It's more because if I had to work with Ro, she'd press every one of my buttons. I'd have to find some way to leave her behind on an away mission.
That's hilarious, Joe.
Now, I got Davis Grayson, who happens to be a good friend of mine. Well, Aaron for the win. I gotta just say too, it's two totally different styles of people here. So it's a big comparison. And, I know a lot of, I'm guessing, because I'm still trying to catch up in the real world, that part of Amy's issues with Ro were maybe because she fought for the affection of Riker. And I'm just thinking, they're two different women, but they offer two different things that Riker equally finds himself attracted to. So I think if I'm Riker, I'm like, okay, this isn't quite fair. I'm feeling a little trapped here, because you got two very strong women, but coming from two very different places and where their strength comes from. So,
yeah, and actually, there's no need to even compare them at all.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a Ro profile, so
yeah.
But
I can definitely see where Riker would find an attraction to either woman. So,
I mean, Riker finds an attraction to any woman, and also to non-gendered individuals.
This is true.
I think Riker would find that tree in my backyard attractive.
Well, I think
before I destroy it.
I think Ro filled a position on the show that we needed, which is somebody who would push back and who wasn't always yes, Captain, no, ma'am kind of person, someone who was outspoken, and it was nice to get that perspective on the show for a change. So
agreed, and that's why she was created in the first place, to bring that little like seed of discontent.
Yeah. All right. Well, that about does it for our feedback. So why don't we move on to our main topic, which is, of course, our next Batleth battle.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
2 episodes go in. One comes out. This time we are looking at Season 4, Episode 6, Legacy, and Season 1, Episode 20, Heart of Glory. I always find it a little unfair when a Season 1 episode comes into a Batleth battle, because I think on the whole, Season 1 isn't looked on too fondly. But I think there may be some debate here. So we'll start with Legacy. Who would like to give us a summary of the episode Legacy? Does anybody have that handy?
I'm looking at you, Kyle.
You're looking at me. Okay.
I want to do Heart of Glory.
Okay. Let me get that in front of me here. Bear with me. I'm managing.
Or what you remember off the top of your head is also
well.
fine.
I mean, with Legacy, we open up with. Can I just say, because it's been a while since I had watched a TNG, and especially just after watching Picard, how young Patrick Stewart looks.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Yeah,
that's crazy. With Legacy, though, we open up with a return to Tasha Yar's home planet, thanks to a crash of a Federation ship actually an explosion, which led to a shuttlecraft crash landing on the planet. The Enterprise goes to investigate. Things don't go real well. This place might have more problems than we have currently in our own world when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
We they send a away team down with Riker data, and we find out there's two different factions. And you have the warning symbols within their chested detectors, and you see they have the yellow. Our crew finds them right after they've what they say is a practical joke of stealing some top-notch ale from their sides. As they try to, as Riker tries to find a way to rescue his own members of Starfleet. Of course, that leads to negotiations and things not looking 100% trustworthy on that situation, which leads us to the introduction of Ishara Yar. And that's where the episode definitely takes a turn and starts getting very interesting. As they beam Ishara on, she starts forming a bond with Data, much like her sister. They develop plans to go rescue the crew, including beaming down one time to get to the life pod so they can set up something to detect where the crew is. They accomplish that. Then Ishara convinces Data, we learn it's a little cell job going on, that she wants to be on the Enterprise. She wants to join Starfleet. She wants all this new life. And so they get the surgery to perform removing her detector from her chest. They go back down to the planet and execute their plan, which turns out there's two plans. There's the Starfleet plan and there's Ishara Yar's plan of, no, I'm going to sabotage things so my people can come in, raid everything, and take over. Doesn't work. We learn Ishara was probably not playing games either, as the phaser she had pointed on Data was set to kill. Not nice. I'm just saying, not nice. And in the end, the Enterprise leaves the planet, leaving Ishara Yar behind. But a lot of questions, I think, still afterwards about where Ishara stands. And I know that wasn't the best overview of the episode, but this was an interesting episode for me because I just felt like it was so focused on the one thing in this episode. And kind of the rest of it was just kind of like, okay, we're just creating the situation so we can have this around this one thing.
Right.
Which is the Ishara story. And I remember it felt like such a huge deal introducing this character and everybody was just going kind of mind blown by the introduction of this character. And I thought it was just great casting with Beth Toussaint, because she actually did look a lot like she could be Denise Crosby, a relative of Denise Crosby in real life.
For sure.
But the episode itself, it was interesting because it's also one of those good episodes where we see Data working through things with his emotions and how he is processing kind of having a bond with Tasha's sister after everything he had been through with Tasha. And I think that's one of the things that makes this episode stand out, is the aspect of the impact this episode has on Data.
Agreed. This really is a Data-focused episode, and which is good. I also find it interesting. This is the beginning of season 4, and after they had wrapped up the cliffhanger from Best of Both Worlds, we really started to focus on family, right? Because the episodes we've had since then include family and brothers and Remember Me, and now Legacy, where we're talking about the family of the crew. And so we're finally seems to be giving our main cast more backstory, more history, more family connections, which I find really interesting, and that we're even going back to characters that we've already lost and giving them more backstory and connections as well. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw this episode decades ago. And normally, when whatever show it is, and they go to some planet and they run into some random person and, oh my gosh, it's so-and-so's sister, brother, cousin, mother, father. Usually it makes me roll my eyes because it's like, yeah, right, what are the odds? In this case, it actually made sense. I mean, they go to Turkana 4, and the way that they set it up, where they had already mentioned that, a former, planet member had served aboard the Enterprise. And I think it was Riker that said, well, it wouldn't, all they have to do is search their databases and find out it was Tasha Yar and come up with her sister. So that whole part of it actually made a lot of sense to me. But I remember, again, when I first saw this, what I didn't get is like, why are they bringing up Tasha Yar again? She's dead. You know, I never quite understood why they kept bringing her in and with Sela and everything. Again, this was just me, you know, watching it back in the 80s and 90s. Um, but I guess they cared.
Could it be because of one of the reasons why is it was so weird how Denise Crosby left the show in the first place, and under those very interesting career choices she made, if you want to put it that way. But one of the things too that I thought was really interesting about this episode, Kevin, you kind of brought it up, is talk about family and stuff like that. One of the things I found out was connections too, and I found it very interesting. You have the scene where you have Ishara and Data talking, and she's talking about, well, there's no memory. She has barely any memories of her sister, and the only memories that exist of her are within files of the starship, and how Data goes to correct her. And then I think one of the more powerful things is when she gives Data the detection chip that she had in her chest and says, use this to remember me by. And even though at that point we feel like it's a manipulation, I think there was more to it than that. And I think it's a very powerful scene when at the end of the episode you see Data holding that and just kind of staring at it as he's kind of cycling through whatever is going on in his emotions and within his own circuitry.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think this didn't seem as sort of fan servicey as Sela does to me. Yeah. Like this isn't about bringing up Yar for the sake of Yar. This is about bringing up Yar because of how she affects Data. Right. Yeah. And he can say all he wants that he is emotionless, but her loss was a big one to him, and he's still dealing with the repercussions of that 3 years later. And then this person comes in who reminds him of her.
Yeah,
it's it's tough, and I thought it was beautifully played. I thought Beth Toussaint. We're going to talk about guest stars here. She's like the big one. There are a couple of other guys who are freedom fighters or alliance members, whatever you call them. But Beth Toussaint's performance as Ishara is very memorable. Like she's a woman who's loyal, but you can also see that she's starting to fall for the Starfleet line too, right? Like you could see that she could go either way. You're not surprised when she doesn't and she sticks with her people, but there's something there that's starting to gnaw at her, and I find that really fascinating that she could have gone the way that she said she was going to, but she didn't.
Yeah, and as I was watching this, coming right off of our Ro profile, it kind of struck me that there are a lot of similarities between Ishara and Ro, and some major differences. If Ro were in this situation, I think she might have joined Starfleet. And another thing that kind of struck me about Ishara is she had been drinking the Kool-Aid for 15 years.
Yeah.
And there's all this propaganda, and this is so true today, or in any day and age and in any country, but it's so true today, where there's the propaganda. And if you belong to, for example, you identify with a political party or a resistance group or whatever tribe it is you identify with, and they've got their party line, and they're like when you talk to someone, and I'm politically unaffiliated, uninterested, whatever, but I'll hear people talking about their politics, and you hear one person use the exact same words, phrases, sentences as another person, that they've never met, but they're of the same party. So there's like that script almost that they read off of. And I think that Ishara was so bought into the script that even though I think she really truly felt a friendship for Data, I don't think she was lying about that. And I think she did truly consider or want, felt a pull to leave and to join Starfleet, but she was just so programmed by her party line that there was no way that she could ever actually do it. I think Ro might have.
I think that's a really good point, and I think this is an aspect of having Data be your central character in this, because knowing how Ishara is about trusting people and how what she's been programmed to and through her life and growing up in this environment and living in this environment, she knows with Data, because Data being an android, she doesn't know any better. The aspect, whatever Data says is truth. Data's not going to sit there and lie to her. So she knows there's no manipulation, there's no malicious content coming from Data. And I think that's why it made her question a little bit of where she comes from. But I think in the end, with her choosing to stay, it's also a reflection of, I think in her case, fear of change too. Even though she thinks maybe the Starfleet life might be better, there's a fear of leaving what you know, and your own self-doubt of, can you function in this other reality? I think if it was any other character but Data who was kind of making her believe this, it wouldn't have rang as true as it was with Data and him basically unintentionally selling her on Starfleet.
So what do you think of, because she said that Tasha had taken care of her after their parents were killed and after these other people had disappeared. So Tasha had taken care of her, then Tasha disappears and she joined this, what's the word I'm not thinking of? Faction, whatever.
It's the Alliance.
Gang, alliance, yeah. And she joined them to be taken care of. Like, she doesn't know how to take care of herself per se without having someone taking care of her. Because that's another thing that kind of occurred to me when she was saying that there's no way she could leave Starfleet. This place is taking care of her.
I also feel like Data might have been the first person in a very long time to ever show Ashara any kindness. There doesn't seem to be any empathy on Turkana 4. It is not a planet where empathetic feelings are going to do you any good. And so I think that maybe that put a little doubt in her mind too. But her loyalty wins out, and it's like a cult, right? It's like I don't know,
a bit of a brainwashing. It's what you,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the only way you know how to survive. And again, I think it comes to it. There's that fear there. You know, I know how to survive in this environment. Am I going to stay in the environment I know how to survive in, or am I going to try something new? Tasha made the choice to join Starfleet to get out of that environment. Her sister made the opposite choice. It's like, I need to be a sense of loyalty, a sense of, these are the people who took care of me. I need to stand by them. And again, it's a real interesting two sides of the coin here. I can have this probably a better life here, but how strong is my loyalty to the people who protected me and raised me and that have always looked out for me, even if they do have some of their own agendas there as well?
I think, everything is with an agenda. They don't do anything for anyone. It's all what's in it for me. Whereas Data genuinely, it wasn't about using her to get something. Like, he genuinely cared in his android way. But yeah, I think what you were saying, Kyle, just the fear of change. To go to Starfleet is just something new and different, and that's another thing that's pretty universal, is a fear and resistance to change.
This is true. Well, why don't we talk about our third pillar here, which is the importance to canon. I think this one, goes back to season 1, right? It's all about the Yar family, which is pretty important. Anything else? Any other major canon connections here that we see?
I think the continuing growth of Data. Yeah, the continuing growth of Data. I actually think this episode was a big boost for Data in him dealing with things with Tasha that we hadn't really crossed that path again in a while. And I think it was a good idea to cross that path, because here's Data with somebody who he cared about and made a human connection with that was special to him. And when Tasha was gone, there wasn't really anybody per se to talk to about that. They were friends, but there wasn't a family. And now he's faced with the family of somebody who he cared about. And it's interesting, because I think the way it was played was very much, you could see it where at first it's you see the android side of Data with the logic and everything, but by the end of the episode you start seeing those emotions pop in. And I think it was actually one of Brent Spiner's better performances in this episode too, because I really do think with Data, it's selling the subtlety of the changes that are happening, and he was very good at that in this episode.
Yeah.
I agreed. I don't think I can say that much better. I did have a couple of things I wondered about in this episode too, like why at the end, when the Alliance leader is like banging on Picard's door to get Ashara back, Picard didn't have to return her. Like he could have dropped her on the other side. Like he could have dropped her on the planet's surface. He could have dropped her anywhere, right? She betrayed them. Why should he give her back what she wants, which is to go home? I don't know. Maybe that's just me being petty.
I think in Picard's case, it's out of respect for Tasha, more than
Tasha.
anything.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah, and also maybe a little prime directive in there where, well, what kind of jurisdiction does Picard have over her or over any of these factions?
Yeah. The whole planet falling apart like it did, seems to be a prime directive issue to me though too. If these were Federation colonists at the beginning, why didn't the Federation come in and like help them before it devolved into this? It doesn't make a ton of sense, but
Yeah, they
again,
mentioned they left the Federation, but was that before the rape gangs that Tasha had spoken about?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm also really curious to know, and always have been, how the planet got its name Turkana for. Because Turkana is a region in northwest Kenya, and a group of people, an ethnic group of people. And there's Lake Turkana in Kenya, Uganda, and it's actually the only place I've really spent appreciable time in Africa. So I'm
Oh,
really curious, listeners, if anyone knows why they named it Turkana. Eyokanoi.
interesting. Well, I think that's a good deep dive into legacy. Why don't we get your summary of Heart of Glory then, Ria?
The Enterprise is responding to a disturbance in the neutral zone. They find a damaged vessel. Riker, Geordi beam aboard. There's an extended, awkward, uncomfortable scene where, yes, it's season 1, and they're trying to point out that Geordi is a man of unique vision, and Picard makes all sorts of really uncomfortable comments about Geordi's vision. Anyway, once they get past all that, before the ship is about to explode, they beam aboard the survivors, who are 3 Klingons, although one is on the verge of death. Worf, of course, kind of excited to find some fellow Klingons, but the Klingons are not who they say that they are. Another Klingon ship, approaches the Enterprise, and when they find out who's on board, they, give the Enterprise crew the story of who these Klingons are, and they want them beamed aboard. Turns out they're just 3 Klingons, well, now down to 2, who want to go back to the ways of battle and not peace. They feel that their souls are dying, living in this state of peace, and they try to convince Worf to join them. Worf actually stays loyal to the Federation, so here loyalty comes up again. Rather than beaming these individuals back aboard the Enterprise, they end up dying in battle, trying to escape, and the end. Did I forget anything major?
No, I
think so.
I think got it all there. This was a good episode. I liked it. This is one of the better season 1 episodes.
I agree. I'll tell you, when I sat down to watch this, I had it in my head that this was the episode where Worf wanted, it was the anniversary of his day of ascension or whatever it was with the pain sticks. That was the episode I had it in my head as. So when this episode started, and it started with this whole neutral zone, I thought, have I put the wrong episode on? And I had to check this to make sure that I'd picked the right one. And yeah, I had. And it totally was not the episode I was expecting it to be when I came in. So it was a kind of a pleasant surprise that this is what I got when I watched it last night.
Oh, just, being a season 1 episode. Funny, I was thinking of this watching episode 2 of Strange New Worlds, and that's an Uhura episode, and you get a lot of the background. And in a lot of these season 1 episodes of whatever series, you get a lot of violation of the maxim of, in TV and movie, show don't tell. In season 1s, you get a lot of tell because there just isn't time to show, and so a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition of Worf explaining his upbringing to these Klingons, and that's how we get kind of the fire hose background on different characters. So that, I think that's one reason why season 1s can be a little more rough of whatever series. But yeah, we get the Worf backstory here, and there was something else that I totally forgot. Oh, Geordi, yeah, and we get a lot of the insight into Geordi's vision, albeit in a very awkward way. But
Yeah, that was very awkward. It reminded me of earlier in the season when Picard experienced the holodeck for the first time and
Yeah.
how he had to explain his feelings and emotions and how astonished he was by everything. I don't feel like Picard should have been that astonished by what was going on. And I'm glad we never did this. Let's link up Geordi's visor to the main view screen ever again. Like this is the
Yes.
only time I can think of that this has happened.
Yeah.
See, when I watched that scene, and it had been a while, I think this is one of the things too, where the technology of the time of filming really did a disservice to the scene, because if they would have
Mhm.
had more technology and a better way to show Geordi's vision, I think it would have worked a little bit better. Because I did like the line of Picard saying, "I understand him more now," because you're literally seeing from his perspective. And
Mhm.
so I think the idea behind it was done. I think there was some poor writing with and I just don't think the technology and how they portrayed it executed it well. But I think the
Yeah.
general idea was a good idea. It was just the execution of it. Um, for me, though, what really stands out for this episode is going back is this episode to me really started a very long plot line with Worf about
Mhm.
him fighting his the eternal struggle he constantly has between his Klingon heritage and his human upbringing.
Mhm.
And I really think this was actually how they using this episode to kind of start the ball on that is I thought was pretty well done, especially for it being a season 1 episode, with how they talk about what runs through his blood, what
Yes.
his Klingon instincts and fight, and the question of how suppressed are they, and it there's so much, and how Worf handles it, and you even see I think they handle it very well in the aspect of even where the crew is questioning. Picard doesn't necessarily question his loyalty, but there's this temptation here. He's probably never just the first time he's probably ever truly faced that out in the field
Mhm.
in this aspect, being in this kind of sheltered Starfleet situation for so long.
Right.
So I think it was a great way to start that particular path for Worf, and actually was one of the highlights for season 1.
Yeah, I agree, and the dialogue between Worf and the Klingons too. Yeah, you've got the mandatory season 1 exposition where Worf gives his history, but like when one of the Klingons said to him, "So you've never really spent time around Klingons, have you?" Just calling him out, and Worf asks, "Are you trying to make me angry?" And the one says, "Well, I want to see if you can still be angered." And just a lot of those lines were, just like you said, Kyle, just excellent, in starting the ball rolling on the Worf character.
Yeah. This really was the first time we had seen any Klingons except Worf since the show came back. So, I mean, that's a big deal. Um, and and we also learned that yes, we know there's an alliance between the Klingons and the Federation, but that not everybody loves it, especially on
Mhm.
the Klingon side. So it does set up some pretty important things for the future as well, right?
Yeah. And a little depth on the Klingons too, like the death howl and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, we learned a lot of new Klingon information from this episode.
Yeah.
They were throwing a lot of things at the wall in this episode too, because you
Mhm.
had Klingons, you had Ferengis mentioned, you had obviously Romulans in the neutral zone. So this is at a point where you can definitely see where they're trying to throw out ideas and see what's going to stick here. What can we use? One of the best things I loved was when they were talking about the fact that Worf was able to identify that the damage was from Klingon weapons, not Ferengi weapons,
Yes.
and
Yes. The
how
feared
how they
Ferengi warriors.
yes, exactly. But yeah, and I think that was kind of always one of the things with season 1 that at times was interesting, because it would throw out ideas and you'd be like, "Oh, I want to expand more at this." The first time you're seeing it, but it also was like, do they have really any idea of what direction they want to go in here at this point?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Glad they did narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about guest stars. The big one here is Vaughn Armstrong.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so this is his first appearance on Star Trek. His first of 11 different characters he played on various Star Treks over the years.
I thought it was
And
13. I could be wrong.
I'm seeing 11 here. So he played Captain Chorus, Guldanar, Dr. Telek Ermor in Eye of the Needle. So he's been a Klingon, a Cardassian, a Romulan, Seskal, another Cardassian, 2 of 9 in Voyager, so he was an ex-Borg, 5. He was a Vidian captain, is 6. An Alpha Hirogen is 7. Korath the Klingon, 8. Maxwell Forrest on Enterprise, 9. Klingon captain in Enterprise, that's 10. And a Cretacean captain on Enterprise, that's 11.
Oh, okay. And I'm seeing a 12th being the Mirror
Forrest.
Mirror Maximilian for. Okay. Yeah. Still,
So that's a lot.
That's even more than Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
And he did a Star Trek video game as well.
Yes, he did.
That's the 13th that this was.
And he was in the Star Trek The Experience in Las Vegas.
Really? Nice.
It looks like he was in 5 Star Trek video games.
Well, I really liked him as Captain Chorus in this episode. And I think they did a really good job, especially being a season 1 and they're just basically reintroducing the Klingons. He wasn't just this bad guy. There was depth to him. There was nuance to his character. And he looks good as a Klingon. But.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a very interesting character, especially for what he put into Worf and the questions he raised within Worf. Because there is a point in this episode where you're not 100% sure which direction Worf's going to go, especially when you're watching this for the first time in the first season, right. And you don't necessarily know. But so yeah, he just had a presence about him. He had that presence of, like, even though we find out he's a kind of a rogue Klingon at this point, he had a certain gravitas that just attracted you to this character, what this character stood for. And I think that was a very important part to having such a good actor like Armstrong playing this role.
That kind of brings to mind, should we have a new segment on Galaxy Class called What Would Ro Do?
I'm sure Amy will love that.
Yes. Well, you know what? Worf and Deanna Troi have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're 2 separate human beings. But yeah, if Ro were in Worf's shoes, what would she do? But no, I agree with everything you said, Kyle.
I think the other thing that was a great little moment too was the fact you don't see the Klingons take a hostage, even though they are these kind of rebellious Klingons. They still do live by their code.
Yeah.
Even if they don't agree with the decisions the Empire has lived, they still live by that Klingon code. And I think that's even more true to this. And I think we understand a lot about the Klingon code in this episode, because even at the end of the episode, when Worf is talking to the commander of the other ship and he asked him how they died, and he just said they died well. Mm-hmm. And then when the commander says, when your Starfleet tenure is up, come serve on my ship. And I love that whole, like, well, I would be honored. And they walk away. And I just love the look on Riker and Picard's face as he's walking, like, what would that? He's like, I was just being polite.
Yes. That was great. And so many aspects of Klingon culture that were established here. Cowards take hostages, Klingons do not. And then duty, honor, loyalty, and dying honorably in battle, these things that we just take for granted now.
I think the other thing we take for granted is our knowledge of Worf. When this episode originally aired, Worf really hadn't been given much to do. He was a background character, really. Tasha was the head of security. Like, she was still alive in this episode. So Worf hadn't been featured very much. So we really didn't. And the show was so new, and people were so used to seeing the Klingons as they were in, like, the Star Trek movies, that we weren't sure where Worf's loyalties really lie. So the chance that Worf could leave the show, or could leave the Enterprise, that was a possibility that could have happened.
Yeah, I think it definitely played on we're still not quite sure what's going on here with this crew yet. Who's really in, who's really not, and especially actually having a Klingon on the Enterprise. That was always one of the big things in the first season. It's like, the whole dynamic of that. And I think that's what made that so interesting, and why. And I think it left a lot of people with that thought in their head at the end of the episode. It's like, how long is Worf actually going to be on the Enterprise? And I think a lot of people felt like, after watching that episode, that, okay, he's not long for this show.
Yeah.
I think it's something that the writers actually played on a lot, especially in the early seasons.
Yeah. Little did the fans know it'd be Tasha that was gone and not Worf. But
Exactly. Worf got a huge boost after this, right? Like the death of Tasha raised Worf's profile.
now he suddenly had something to do.
Exactly. Because really, what was Worf's job on the bridge before Tasha died? Was he
Tactical, was it?
tactical?
Yeah, tactical.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Tasha really affecting things through both episodes.
Yeah. That is something so interesting about the Batleth battles is you pit two, arbitrarily, randomly chosen episodes, and there's always these common threads that run through. Loyalty, Tasha Yar.
Well, I
What would
think
Ro
loyalty
do?
is a big one for both of these episodes. I think that is I think probably if you're going to pick a mainstream that runs through both of these episodes, it's loyalty, whether it's Ishar's loyalty to her people or
Yeah.
Worf's loyalty and conflict of loyalty to both his heritage, but to the Enterprise and Starfleet. And
Yeah.
I think loyalty was definitely one of the big heart. If you're going to connect these two episodes, that's probably the biggest string connecting these two episodes.
This is true. Now, the difference is so loyalties are tested in both these episodes. In Legacy, it's Ishara, and in Heart of Glory, it's Worf. And both of them make the decision to go back to the place where they came from, right? Because Worf did grow up in the Federation. But Worf's decision isn't because of glory or the thought of winning a battle. It's because of conviction, I think, right? I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. Actually, we appreciate Worf's decision to stay because the Federation is the place that we know and we love, and we criticize Ashara's decision to stay because she could have made a better life for herself.
I think the difference between the two is in Worf's case, you're establishing, even though he is Klingon, that he's using his Klingon beliefs to stand by what the commitment he made to Starfleet. That's it.
Right.
If he feels if he betrays that commitment, that's the honor. That's the, his honor, his glory. He sacrifices those by sacrificing his commitment to Starfleet and to the people on the Enterprise. Where with Ashara, it's more of it's a decision made out of the unknown.
Yeah.
She's not looking to dishonor people. It's just it's fear and unknown. And in her case, it was the reasons why the decisions were made were what was different. In Ashara's case, it was staying with my family. I wasn't saying much about honor as it was, I don't feel like I can take the risk to make a change in my life.
Yeah. Right. I think I see it, and I'm going to use the Ro Laren spectrum here. Yeah. Worf made his decision based on basically the needs of the many, the greater implications. It wasn't just about him and doing what maybe he on the inside down to his blood and bones wanted to do, which is go run off and fight battles and glory and honor, but realizing the greater implications of peace for the Federation and the Klingon Empire and the billions and billions and billions of lives that would be affected by that. Of course, Worf is going to make the honorable, the noble choice and in favor of preserving the peace. Whereas Shara did what I think Ro would not have done, is she's staying with what's comfortable to her. She's, like you said, afraid of the change, afraid of leaving, afraid of the unknown. And so she's going to stay with what's comfortable to her, even though I really think at some level she saw that it wasn't right. Not just that she could have a better life, in the Federation or Starfleet, but I think she did actually see to some extent that these factions weren't good for anybody, but she wasn't going to make that sacrifice, to leave. Where I do think that Ro would take any kind of wouldn't matter the consequences to herself. She was always working for the greater good.
I think for me too, one of the other big things with these two episodes was the character growth of two major characters. Obviously, it was a huge growth episode for Worf, and really established like I said earlier, established where the direction of the Worf character is, one of the big storylines it was going to go through. With Data, because I remember I didn't bring this up when I did that, but we had a poker scene that opened this up, and we even in that you see I was always a fan of episodes where it was Riker kind of trying to teach Data things. And you have Riker talking about how Data is so much improved at the game and best poker face ever, and little fun moments like that. But such a growth episode for Data too. So I mean, the strings of these episodes are actually very similar, and I think that when you put them up against each other, you see so many familiarities between these two episodes. I think what it's going to boil down to is which one carried the bigger weight on the character and going forward in the series.
Yeah, and canon too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in this episode we had quite a bit. Obviously, the launching point for Worf's development for the Klingon culture. We had the first ever mention of the Talarians, which we only ever see again in the season 4 episode Suddenly Human.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time we saw the Klingon death scream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of important firsts for Klingon lovers in this episode.
Von Armstrong.
First Von Armstrong, exactly. So should that bring us to our debate here, or have we already started that? I think we've already started that.
I think so too.
I love this format. I love that we take two totally random episodes and put them up against each other, and it's fun to see the connections and parallels. And it never dawned on me the connections between these two episodes until we just had this conversation. So I'm amazed by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to know? So I did put the poll on the BQN Collective. I just did it this morning. Sorry, listeners. I've been sick. I should have done it a couple days ago. But we do have 12 votes in at the time of recording. Would you like to know where the listeners stand on this?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, so by a vote of 10-2, the listeners have voted for Heart of Glory. So that brings it to our vote. Do we have any opening comments in this debate before we put it to a vote? Is there anything anyone? Go ahead.
I think when you compare these two episodes, like I said a little bit ago, it's looking at the individual weight of these episodes more than what these episodes offer as a whole. I think they carry a lot more individual weight and impact on particular characters. And I think for me, one episode, both of them carry weight, but I think one episode defines a character going forward, while the other one is just adding on to something that had already been established and being built. And I think because you have one of these episodes that defines a major plot line for a character going forward, I think that one probably kind of that's where my leaning is.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I understand where you're coming from.
And that actually gives an advantage to a season 1 episode over a season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in this case, because these two episodes were so just dependent on developing and moving forward particular characters, and I think both did a very good job at it. But I think, like I said, one because this is like you said, Rhea, it's because it's earlier on in the season, it has a more impact as a whole throughout the series, because it ends up being a plot line throughout the season, throughout this entire character's existence in Star Trek.
And when you think about it, in season 1, we were very, very, very episodic, and things from one episode didn't necessarily bleed over into another. Whereas I think with Heart of Glory, they laid down a lot of seeds and planted them and watered them throughout season 2, and they bloomed in seasons 3 and 4, right? So, yeah, I think I'm leaning that way too. Rhea, do you have anything to add to this discussion?
I agree with what both of you just said, and those seeds, I mean, watered throughout TNG and Deep Space Nine and Lower Decks and the countless, novels and other material that's out there. Yeah, I mean, it had to start somewhere. It started here.
Yeah.
For me, the Heart of Glory. Also, I call it the DS9 effect, which for me is, I was not a big fan of the first season of DS9, but then when I go back and watch the series as a whole, and I see all the seeds that were planted in the first season of DS9, after you watch it as a whole, it elevated DS9's first season to me exponentially. And I think this episode has that same kind of element where when you've watched everything and then you go back and revisit this episode stands out so much more.
I feel that way about most of season 1. That exact, after you see the whole body of work, then it elevates the whole season.
So I think that this goes back to for whatever knocks you have on season 1, and yes, there's times where season runs a little rough, but I think this is one of those ones that you can pull out of season 1 and just say, yeah, this is important. This stands out. Whereas when you look at Legacy, which does have its importance, if Legacy doesn't happen, there's another way to tell a story like that.
Yes.
You don't have if you don't put in Heart of Glory, it changes a lot of things immensely.
True.
So I think for my vote, that's where I'm going. That's where I would go.
So Kyle is voting for Heart of Glory.
Alrighty.
Rhea?
Well, coming into this week, of course, Heart of Glory was one of the episodes. I know which one that is. Legacy, I couldn't even remember what that was. So pull it up and watch it. Oh yeah, it's the Tasha Yar's sister. It's the camel toe episode. And as always, when we go into these Batleth battles, like I'll see the titles and I'll be like, oh, I'm voting for this one 100%, or I'm voting for that one. And usually what I find is that when you get into the 2 episodes and really dig deep in them, that I end up, the one that I don't like so much, I end up liking so much more. This week, Legacy, okay, yeah, whatever. But the fact of the matter is I really enjoy watching Heart of I can't remember the name. I almost called it Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Glory.
Heart of Glory. But I really, despite the fact that I can't remember the name, I enjoy Heart of Glory, and everything that you guys have said about the canon and the launching point for Worf and for the Klingon culture. The importance of canon can't be overemphasized here, but I just really enjoy watching it. So
yeah.
Heart of Glory for me. So now your vote is irrelevant, Kevin.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm making it unanimous. I would have thought going in that I would have voted for Legacy, but Heart of Glory sets up so much. It sets up like 17 years of Star Trek Klingon plot lines, right? It sets up. It doesn't even know what it's setting up. It's setting up so much stuff. And I think when it comes to linchpin episodes of Star Trek, I think Heart of Glory has got to be one of them because it is a key moment for Worf. It's the first time Worf has to make that decision between, do I stay in the Federation in Starfleet or do I go off and be with my Klingon brothers? And this is a theme we'll come back to with Worf over and over again, and it's really important. So I think, based on importance to canon, and also it's a fun Klingon romp. And I don't even particularly love Klingon stories, but I gotta go with Heart of Glory here too. So our listeners, with the exception of those 2 who voted against it, will be happy that we voted with them this time, because that doesn't always happen, and we get lynched every now and then. So in the tournament, so this was Batleth Battle 23. Heart of Glory does move on to face off against an episode that got a bye in the first round, and it will be facing off against Deja Q in Batleth Battle 87 if we ever get there. The next Batleth battle you can look forward to on Galaxy Class is Season 1, Episode 11's Haven versus Season 2, Episode 13's Times Squared. Neither of which are great episodes, as I recall.
But funny story, the winner of that battle, guess which episode that they will face off against?
I do not know.
It all comes back to Ensign Rowe.
Oh.
Is Amy aware that she will not be escaping Ensign Rowe anytime soon?
Well, Amy also knows that Rhea's a squirrel and will forget at some point. So. Unless listeners remind me to have the Ensign Rowe moment of the day, every episode.
Well, that about wraps it up for this. So we just have the finale of our episode to get to.
Incoming transmission.
So we would love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and we hope you'll join the Facebook group, the BQN Collective. If you were already in the Federation Council chambers, you're already there, and you don't have to join another group. So please come and be assimilated with us.
Speaking of assimilation, the email addresses are still in the process of being assimilated. There's a little, Galaxy Galactic interference. So we'll have those up and running for you, hopefully by next episode. But you can also follow us on Twitter at Galaxy Class Pod.
So please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts if you've been assimilated by Apple. But if you have not been assimilated like me, wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a star rating and written review. This helps others to find the show. You can also check out our other shows on BQN, like All Good Things, History with the Szilagys, Mickey's Marvels, Union Federation, and Infinite Diversity. So, Kyle, where can people find you when you are not having your loyalties tested between your heritage, your home, and your place of employment?
There's that, and apparently my place of podcasting too. Of course, it's been an honor. First, I want to say it's been an honor to be on this episode of Galaxy's Class. Hopefully, I brought honor to my podcast family name and with you guys, and I just appreciate you guys having me on so much. You can find me on Twitter at @KyleW or on Instagram at @KyleFandom. And of course, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com, where you can find all of our great shows, including Union Federation, which is shared between these two wonderful networks. And rumor has it that a particular show might be getting on the BQN side, might be popping up on the Fandom Podcast Network soon as well. So a little assimilation sharing there. But if I would like to just invite all the listeners here at BQN to check out the Fandom Podcast Network. We cover everything. We have Star Trek, Star Wars. We even have a Highlander show. We have a Doctor Who show. We cover everything that's going on in pop culture. It gets confusing for me sometimes. I cross the streams more by accident and bad things happen. But that is where you can find me. And again, at fpnet.podbean.com. Kevin, where can people find you?
Well, I am here in the BQN. I have been thoroughly assimilated, but I'm also on a couple of other podcasts which are not network affiliated with anything. We're just sort of independently out there in the ether. So I do a show called Stage Whispers, which is about live theater in my local area, which is Central Ontario. And amazingly, there is a lot going on right now. Theaters are reopening, shows are happening, the summer festivals are starting. It's a very exciting time to be a theater fan, unless you catch COVID. Don't catch COVID, that's bad. I also do a show with a few friends called True North Nerds, which is a general geek and nerdery podcast. We cover a lot of Marvel stuff because that's what we've been seeing a lot of lately. We've been watching a lot of Moon Knight, and we've all seen Doctor Strange, so that's happening. And that is on True North Nerds. So, Rhea, where can people find you when you're off doing the Klingon Death Howl?
Let's see. When I'm not doing the Klingon, I will be doing the Klingon Death Howl over the thousands of dandelions. Actually, no, I will not be doing the Klingon Death Howl over the thousands of dandelions that I've been killing, because dandelions are without honor. And this tree that I'm chopping down, where am I going to be? You're going to find me in the backyard with the chainsaw. And if you don't hear from me after a couple hours, someone come by the house and make sure that I haven't bled out. But otherwise, you can find me on the BQN Collective and, of course, here on Galaxy Class.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We're putting out more exclusive content for our patrons, like It's Green or Amy's Math Moments, that you won't want to miss. Unless you don't like math, and then you might want to miss it, but don't tell Amy. If you feel so inclined, please check out all the details at patreon.com/BQN. A huge shout out to our very own associate producer, Jim McMahon. You might have heard of him, Trivia with Jim. We're so grateful for your support.
At this time, we'd like to give props to those instrumental for launching BQN. They are Mark White, Amy Nelson, Tony Robinson, and Ken Tripp. A huge shout out to all the hosts on the network for their enthusiasm, efficiency, and involvement in making this the best it can be. And a very special thanks, of course, to the listeners. We are so grateful for your support.
So thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy Class, and until next time, Rhea needs a closing.
The true test of a warrior is not without, it is within. Stay classy, Galaxy.
Give a sign off, Kyle.
We're good. I'll edit it. I can't top Rhea. What are you talking about?
So cowards take hostages. Klingons do not.
Engage.
Previously on BQN. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast.
Can you see yourself as Mirror Mark? Is that something that you think about often?
Well,
doesn't everybody have a little angel and a little devil on their shoulders? You know, and it's just, look at it that way. It's like, in one universe, hopefully you listen to the angel more than the devil, and then the other universe, it's the other way around.
Okay, I can look at it that way.
Galaxy Class, a Star Trek The Next Generation podcast.
Okay, well, we've agreed to keep it deleted and resign it to the infinite depths of nothingness, where all our deleted scenes go.
No, the infinite depths of where, like, all of the bad guys fall in engineering near the warp core. It's always, the bottomless pit. So annoying.
Oh yeah, like there's 100 decks.
Yeah.
To fall through, because warp cores are infinite.
Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast.
I have also retconned now, in the background in Star Trek First Contact, Rios is definitely there watching what's going on and going, oh, Picard never told me he did this.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that idea, yeah.
Definitely.
Totally.
He's definitely back there in the woods somewhere watching it.
That should have been the after
That should have been the end credit scene. Yeah.
Mickey's Marvels, a Disney podcast.
But do you know the French word for hamburger, Chris?
Royale with cheese.
Well, okay. Well,
you will find these and more of your favorite podcasts on BQN.